Listen carefully, not with your ears, but with that quiet place inside you that still believes. God speaks in moments like this. There are seasons when life gets loud, when opinions, fear, memories, and disappointment all compete for your attention. Yet even in the noise, God is gentle enough to whisper and strong enough to interrupt your patterns. Today is not an accident. This moment is not random. You are not here because you were bored or scrolling without direction. You are here because heaven wanted your attention, because there is something God needs you to understand before you step fully into what 2026 is carrying for you. You've been questioning yourself lately. You smile in public, but in private, you wonder if you waited too long, if you missed your window, if your best days are behind you. You replay choices you made when you didn't know better and criticize yourself for not being stronger back then. But God is not consulting your past to determine your future. He is not limited by your mistakes, your delays, or the chapters you wish you could erase. What feels like wasted time to you has been preparation in disguise. What felt like rejectio and was redirection. What felt like silence was actually God protecting you from moving too soon. There are things you prayed for years ago that you quietly stopped believing could still happen. You told yourself you were being mature, realistic, responsible, but deep down there is still a spark that lights up when you imagine more. That spark did not come from your imagination alone. God placed there. Desire can be holy. Hope can be spiritual. And just because you learned how to survive without it does not mean God canceled it. 2026 is not about you becoming someone else. It's about you finally agreeing with who God has already been shaping. You've been trying to control outcomes because uncertainty scares you. You plan, you overthink, you prepare for disappointment before it even arrives. But control is often a response to fear, not wisdom. God is asking you to loosen your grip, not because he wants chaos, but because he wants trust. You cannot receive with clenched fists. You cannot be surprised by God while insisting on knowing every detail. Some blessings only arrive when you make room for the unknown and say, I don't know how, but I trust who. There is healing happening, in you that you cannot yet see. Not the kind that erases memory, but the kind that removes poison from it. You are learning how to remember without bleeding. You are learning how to revisit without reliving. That is not weakness, that is growth. God has been restoring your discernment, sharpening your voice, and strengthening your boundaries. You are not becoming harder, you are becoming clearer. And clarity will save you time, energy, and heartbreak in the days ahead. Do not confuse delay with denial. Some doors did not open because you were not ready to walk through them without losing yourself. God cares more about who you become than what you achieve. He is not rushing you into a future that would crush your identity. What feels slow is actually intentional. What feels hidden is baked. Protected. And what feels ordinary is quietly being infused with purpose. 2026 will not require you to pretend, perform, or prove. It will require you to show up as you are, anchored in truth rather than approval. There are relationships you had to outgrow, habits you had to confront, and versions of yourself you had to release. That grieving was necessary. You cannot carry everything forward. God is not asking you to forget where you came from, but he is asking you to stop living there. The next season will demand emotional honesty and spiritual courage. You will have to choose obedience over comfort, alignment over familiarity, and peace over being understood. And yes, it will feel lonely at times, but lonely does not mean wrong. Pay attention to the small nudges, the quiet convictio, the sudden urge to rest, to speak up, to let go, to try again. God often speaks softly because he wants relationship, not performance. He wants you close enough to hear him without shouting. And when you listen, truly listen, you will realize he has been guiding you all along, even when you thought you were lost, even when you thought you were off track, even when you thought you failed. There. is a version of you emerging that is more grounded, more honest, and more spiritually mature. You are learning how to sit with discomfort without escaping it, how to pray without pretending, how to believe without demanding proof. That maturity is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It will attract the right opportunities, the right people, and the right assignments at the right time. 2026 will not be about doing more. It will be about doing what matters. Let go of the pressure to impress. God is not impressed by burnout, by overworking, by saying yes when your spirit is screaming no. He is pleased with obedience, with integrity, with humility. Rest is not laziness, it is trust. Saying no is not rebellion, it is wisdom. Walking away is not failure, it is discernment. You are allowed to chew. Say peace, even if others do not understand it. Do not shrink yourself to make others comfortable. The confidence God is building in you is not arrogance, it is alignment. You are not too much. You are not behind. You are not disqualified. You are becoming, and becoming takes time, patience, and grace. Speak kindly to yourself. Pray boldly. Move faithfully. The surprise of 2026 will not just be what happens around you, but what happens within you as you finally believe that God is still writing your story and he has not run out of ideas, mercy, or miracles for your life. What feels like delay often carries a deeper purpose that cannot be understood while you are standing in the middle of it. When prayers go unanswered and progress seems slow, the natural response is to assume something is wrong, either with you or with God. You start to question your worth, your calling, and your ability to hear clearly. Yet delay is not always an indication of denial. Sometimes it is evidence of divine care. God is not withholding to punish you or ignoring you because you are unworthy. He is positioning you, shaping your perspective, and strengthening your character so that what he intends to release will not overwhelm or destroy you. There are seasons when God allows things to take longer because rushing would cost you more than waiting ever could. If certain doors had opened earlier, you might have entered them with insecurity, immaturity, or fear that would have distorted the very blessing you were asking for. Delay creates space for growth. It teaches patience, deepens trust, and reveals what truly matters to you. In the waiting, your motives become clearer. You learn whether you want the blessing for validation or for purpose, for applause or for impact. God cares deeply about the condition of your heart, not just the outcome of your request. Silence can feel even heavier than delay. When you pray and hear nothing in return, it can feel like abandonment. But silence does not in absence. Sometimes God is quiet because he is allowing you to develop spiritual discernment rather than emotional dependence. He wants you to learn how to trust his nature even when you cannot track his voice. Silence forces you to reflect, to listen differently, and to rely on faith rather than constant reassurance. In those quiet seasons, God often speaks through wisdom, through conviction, through circumstances, and through the stillness that invites you to slow down and pay attention. Loss also plays a role in divine timing, even when it feels unfair. Some things had to be removed because they were limiting your growth or distracting you from your true assignment. Certain relationships, opportunities, or plans were not taken away to harm you, but to protect you. What you mourned as loss was sometimes God's way of creating room for something better aligned with who you are becoming. Letting go hurts because it forces you to release what was familiar, but familiarity does not always equal destiny. God is more invested in your future than in preserving your comfort. Redirection can be confusing because it often happens without explanation. You may feel led to move in a different direction without understanding why the original path closed. This uncertainty can make you doubt your judgment and fear making the wrong choice. Yet redirection is one of the clearest signs that God is actively involved in your journey. Closed doors are not failures, they are guidance. God sees what you cannot. hidden obstacles, unseen consequences, and better opportunities that require a different route. When he redirects you, it is not to delay your success, but to ensure it arrives with peace rather than regret. Waiting also exposes what you rely on most. When progress is slow, you cannot lean on momentum or external affirmation. You are forced to confront your inner life, your faith, your fears, and your expectations. This exposure is uncomfortable, but it is necessary. God uses waiting to strip away false confidence and replace it with a deeper, more stable trust. He teaches you how to stand even when nothing around you seems to be moving. That kind of strength cannot be developed in seasons of instant results. There is also a timing that involves other people and circumstances aligning. You may be ready, but everything connected to your next step may not be. God's plans are not isolated. They involve networks of preparation beyond what you can see. While you wait, others are being prepared, systems are being shifted, and doors are being built that did not exist before. What feels like inactivity is often intense activity happening outside of your awareness. Trusting this requires humility and faith, acknowledging that your perspective is limited, but God's is ample. When you begin to see delay, silence, loss, and redirection through this lens, frustration slowly turns into surrender. You stop fighting the process and start learning from it. You become less anxious about timing and more attentive to growth. Instead of asking, why is this taking so long? You begin to ask, who am I becoming while I wait? That shift changes everything. It allows you to move forward without bitterness and to receive what comes next with gratitude rather than entitlement. God's timing is never random or careless. It is intentional, layered, and compassionate, even when it feels painful. Every pause has a purpose. Every closed door carries instruction. Every season of waiting is shaping you into someone capable of carrying what is coming without losing your peace, your faith, or your identity. Letting go of control is one of the hardest spiritual lessons because control often feels like safety. When life has disappointed you before, when things fell apart despite your best efforts, you learn to protect yourself by managing every detail. You plan for every outcome, anticipate every possible failure, and rehear conversations that may never happen. Control becomes a shield, but over time it also becomes a cage. It keeps you from experiencing freedom, surprise, and trust. God is not asking you to release control to make you feel unstable. He is inviting you to experience a deeper kind of security that does not depend on certainty. Fear is usually the root of control, the fear of being hurt again, the fear of wasting time, the fear of hoping too much and being let down. These fears are understandable, but they quietly shape your decisions if left unaddressed. You may say you trust God, but still rely heavily on your own understanding because it feels more predictable. Yet predictability is not the same as peace. God's peace often arrives when you step into uncertainty with faith rather than try to eliminate uncertainty altogether. Releasing control requires honesty. You have to admit where fear has been calling the shots, where past pain has influenced your expectations, and where you have settled for what feels manageable instead of what feels meaningful. This honesty can be uncomfortable because it exposes how much energy you have spent trying to protect yourself rather than trusting God to protect you. But awareness is the first step toward freedom. You cannot surrender what you refuse to acknowledge. The past has a powerful way of shaping how you see the future. Old disappointments whisper that the same outcomes will repeat. Failed attempts convince you that trying again is risky. Betrayals make you cautious, and caution slowly turns into walls. God does not minimize you, our experiences, but he does not want them to define your expectations. Healing is not about forgetting what happened. It is about removing its authority over your decisions. When you allow the past to dictate your future, you limit what God can do in the present. Making room for healing means slowing down enough to feel what you have been avoiding. It means allowing grief, anger, and disappointment to surface so they can be processed rather than suppressed. Suppressed pain does not disappear. It simply hides until it influences your reactions. God invites you to bring that pain to him, not so he can judge you, but so he can restore you. Healing is not instant, but it is intentional. Each honest prayer, each moment of vulnerability, and each act of trust creates space for wholeness to grow. Clarity often follows surrender. When you stop forcing outcomes, you begin to see more clearly what is truly aligned with your values and purpose. You start recognizing what drains you versus what strengthens you, what distracts you versus what grounds you. This clarity helps you make better decisions, not from desperation, but from discernment. You no longer chase every opportunity. You choose well. T resonates with your spirit. Letting go of control does not make you passive. It makes you intentional. Trusting God with the unknown does not mean you stop planning or caring about the future. It means you hold your plans loosely, allowing God to adjust them as needed. You remain open to redirection without seeing it as failure. You learn to pause when something feels forced and move forward to you. And there is peace, even if the path is unfamiliar. Trust transforms uncertainty from a threat into a possibility. Unexpected blessings often require open hands. When your hands are clenched around fear, past expectations, or rigid plans, there is little room to receive anything new. Surrender creates space for surprises that exceed what you could have planned. These blessings may not arrive in the form you imagined, but they arrive with alignment, peace, and growth. God's surprises are rarely about instant gratification. They are about long-term transformation. As you release control, you also release the pressure to be perfect. You accept that mistakes are part of learning and that growth is rarely linear. You stop punishing yourself for not knowing everything and allow yourself to be guided. This humility deepens your relationship with God because it is rooted in dependence rather than performance. You trust not because you understand everything, but because you believe God is faithful even when you do not. Fear loses its power when trust grows. The more you experience God meeting you in uncertainty, the less you feel the need to manage every outcome. You begin to live with openness instead of defensiveness, with expectation instead of dread. Releasing control does not mean life becomes predictable. It means your heart becomes anchored, allowing you to move forward with courage, faith, and peace, even when the future is unclear. Inner transformation is the foundation of any lasting change, yet it is often overlooked because it happens quietly, without applause or immediate results. Many people focus on external success, believing that achievements, recognition, or approval will bring fulfillment. But God works from the inside out. He shapes character before he expands influence, and he strengthens identity before he increases responsibility. When inner transformation is ignored, outer success becomes heavy, unstable, and difficult to sustain. God's priority is not how impressive your life looks, but how aligned your heart is with truth. Choosing obedience is one of the clear, succinct expressions of inner growth. Obedience is not about blind compliance or fear. It is about trust. It requires listening carefully and responding, even when the instruction does not make sense or feels inconvenient. Obedience often leads you away from what is popular and toward what is purposeful. It asks you to say no to things that look good but are not right for you, and yes to things that stray you beyond your comfort zone. In doing so, obedience reshapes your priorities and teaches you to value alignment over applause. Peace becomes a guiding measure as transformation deepens. Instead of chasing what excites you momentarily, you begin to choose what settles your spirit. Peace does not mean the absence of challenges. It means the presence of stability within them. God's peace acts a filter, helping you discern where to invest your time, energy, and emotions. When something consistently steals your peace, it becomes a signal that adjustment is needed. This awareness is not restrictive. It is freeing because it allows you to step away from cycles of stress and confusion. Alignment with God requires honesty about your motives. There are moments when you must ask yourself, whether you are pursuing something because it is genuinely aligned with your calling or because you want validation, attention, or reassurance. Inner transformation exposes these motives without condemnation. God does not shame you for wanting to be seen or appreciated. He invites you to root your worth in something deeper. When validation no longer drives you, your decisions become clearer and our confidence becomes steadier. Letting go of performance is another essential part of this process. Many people exhaust themselves trying to meet expectations, both real and imagined. They measure their value by productivity, comparison, or approval. God's transformative work teaches you that your worth is not earned, it is received. You do not have to prove yourself to be loved or accepted. When performance loses its grip, rest becomes possible, authenticity becomes safe, and growth becomes sustainable. Spiritual maturity also involves embracing responsibility without carrying unnecessary burden. You learn the difference between what is yours to carry and what belongs to God. This discernment prevents burnout and resentment. You show up fully where you are called, but you release outcome you cannot control. This balance allows you to remain committed without becoming consumed. It teaches you how to serve faithfully without losing yourself in the process. As inner transformation continues, your relationships begin to shift. You become more honest, more discerning, and more intentional. You stop over-explaining yourself and start trusting that the right people will understand without constant justification. Boundaries become an act of love rather than guilt. You learn that saying no does not make you unkind, it makes you clear. This clarity strength ends your connections and protects your emotional and spiritual health. Faith deepens when it is no longer dependent on circumstances. You learn how to trust God not only when things are going well, but also when outcomes are uncertain. This kind of faith is resilient. It does not collapse under disappointment or pressure. Instead, it grows stronger through adversity, rooted in the belief that God is consistent even when life is unpredictable. This resilience becomes a quiet strength that carries you through seasons of change. Transformation reshapes how you view progress. Instead of measuring success solely by milestones or achievements, you begin to value growth in patience, wisdom, compassion, and discernment. Why? You recognize that becoming more whole is just as important as becoming more accomplished. This perspective reduces comparison and increases gratitude, allowing you to celebrate both small victories and deep lessons. When obedience, peace, and alignment guide your life, transformation becomes evident not through noise or display, but through stability and purpose. You move with intention rather than urgency, with faith rather than fear, and with clarity rather than confusion. The changes within you quietly influence everything around you, creating a life that is grounded, meaningful, and open to what God desires. As to do next, this message is an invitation to see your life through a higher lens, one where waiting is not wasted, surrender is not weakness, and inner growth is not optional but essential. Every delay, every redirection, and every quiet season has been shaping you for something that requires depth, clarity, and trust. God has been working beyond what you can see, loosening your grip on control, healing what fear tried to harden, and aligning your heart with peace rather than pressure. As you learn to trust his timing, release your need to manage every outcome and allow true transformation to take root within you. You step into a life that is not driven by performance or approval, but guided by obedience and faith. What is coming will not simply change your circumstances, it will change how you carry them, how you respond to them, and how you walk forward with confidence, stability, and purpose, knowing that God has been intentional with every part of your journey and faithful in every moment leading you here.